Today, I want to talk about one of the scariest parts about being a foster parent. And I know that a lot of you are thinking about this. And when I first started, I was very fearful, and that is reunification. What reunification is when a child is leaving your home to go back to their parents or back to family members. And this is the goal. And so when I talk about being scared and fearful, this is a personal thing. We know as foster parents that this is our job, this is what we're working towards, and this is what we're supporting throughout the whole time with the case. Even though we are supporting this, it doesn't mean that it's easy or less scary when it is that season you are entering. So today's video, I want to talk through what that transition could actually look like, just to demystify it a bit for you. I'm going to talk about what logistically happens, like what goes home and what you keep in your home. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about what it means for you as a foster parent, how you might experience that loss and move forward after. Reunification can happen in a lot of different ways, and so I'll share a few ways that are most typical, but it is foster care, so anything can happen. I only tell you that so you can be prepared. I find that when I have a caseworker or a advocate that gives me information on the timeline, that it's an opportunity to prepare my heart. So first, I always recommend attending court if you are allowed, and asking about the plan. When are they thinking reunification is going to take place? Now, they may not tell you, or they may say, who knows, but sometimes they might give you information. They may say that parents are on track and, we're hoping that they continue and we can have reunification soon. An advocate might be able to share with you that reunification is being recommended in the next court hearing. Those are all checkpoints where you can start to prepare yourself emotionally for that season. And what that usually looks like when reunification is ordered from a judge is a transition. Now, that transition could be go pick them up from school right now and go collect their things and send them home. Or that transition can be over several weeks where the child starts to have weekend overnight visits with their parents and are slowly moving back home. It will really vary depending on how long the kid has been in care and how old the child is and their specific needs. Now, if you have some thoughts on that, you are welcome to share that with the CASA gal or attorney or the worker. You know the child very well. But just know that that's only one piece of the puzzle on how the transition plan will be made. You can also connect with the therapist and they could share some advice on what makes sense for the child specifically. Now, let's say that there is some warning and you know that reunification is likely to happen in the next several weeks. Here are some things that you can think about and do to prepare yourself and the child. First, as overnights are taking place, you can start to have some general conversations with the child. For example, we're gonna start having overnights with mommy, and why don't we start to bring some of our things and you can keep there. So next time you're there, you'll have your favorite stuffed animal. This can help get them, in the mindset of that transition as well. Another thing that can happen during this time is the parent can join in therapy sessions with the child. And so that can be an opportunity for that service to transition, for the child to, voice any concerns or worries, and for the parent to be a part of the therapeutic care of the child. As these weeks unfold, you are packing, you might be taking a final photo shoot so you can have some nice pictures to send with the child and also to keep for yourself. I also recommend, if there's time, to have kind of a final memory moment, maybe a trip to the zoo or something fun that you've talked about doing. Now would be a good time to do that. You can also start to get organized in the home by doing a ton of laundry and collecting all the things and kind of going through their toys and making sure you have everything they need to go home. And then when the moment comes to say goodbye, I recommend two things. First, the day before is when you should be having those meaningful conversations, especially if you're gonna be emotional. Usually the day before a child goes home, you're a little bit more calm and settled, and then you can have those uplifting sweet conversations and make sure you say everything you want to say. Like, I am so proud of you. I've really enjoyed, having you here and getting to know you. Thank you for teaching me some things. I loved when we went to the zoo and you fed the giraffe. Those are the moments where you can kind of get that closure, and the child can too. Because on the day, it is more about the child and the parent. It is not about you and your feelings. And I know it's a lot, and sometimes you cry and there's things happening, but do your best to collect yourself so that you can be strong. Our kids are watching us, and if they see that we are, put together, neutral, calm, or excited and energetic, whatever it may be, they're gonna match that or look to us on how they should feel, especially if they've been in your home a long time. It can be a hard transition. And remember, hard doesn't mean bad. It's just a big change for kids. And so if we can be strong through that moment, so can they. Now, it is great if we have a warning and we know that reunification is coming, but that is not always the case. And I share that so you can be prepared. So sometimes, especially if a kid has only been with you for a short amount of time, the worker and the judge and the team may decide that a quick reunification is most important for the family. And this could mean that they're picking the child up from school and returning the child without you saying goodbye. And I know that is like a devastating situation just to even think about, because closure is so important for yourself and the child. It is important in those moments to focus on the mission for kids to go home. This is the goal. This is what we want. But if these surprise reunifications do pop up, it is okay for you to ask if you can still have a goodbye conversation. Now, if you have an established relationship with the parent, you could message them and see if you could get, a phone call to say goodbye and just, well wishes. Or you can talk to the worker about seeing if they could arrange a play date at the park to say goodbye and give them some of the items, or a phone call. And that can be really helpful for everyone involved. And in those moments, you can share that you are there to support them. You're there if they need babysitting or any help they need in the future. We don't have a lot of control over these moments. One time I was able to talk with the team and ask for a few additional hours so that we could make sure we had collected everything. So it doesn't hurt to ask. And if you're at court and you're talking to the advocate and the team, you can share these desires. Just make sure that it is about the child and not you. Think about what is going to be most important and most impactful for the child and the family. What do they need? And your emotions are secondary. And I will talk in a little bit about how to handle that. But I just say it as a reminder that even though it feels very devastating to not be able to say goodbye, sometimes it is what is best. Now, a question I get a lot is, what do I send home with the kids? And it will vary, but I'm gonna talk through some general things that will definitely go home and some things that may or may not go home depending on the situation. First, ask the parent if they need anything specifically, because this can help inform. I remember a time where reunification was coming up and we were talking about sending everything back, and the parent actually told me, don't send all that you're discussing because I just don't have room in my house, which was helpful feedback, and that kind of determined what exactly I'd be sending. So sometimes it does help to connect, and you might also hear that, they could really use the car seat, and maybe you choose to send that. So let me go through everything for your consideration. All right, so here are the items that should be sent home, and I'm gonna reference because I have a checklist. So I'm gonna look at my list as I talk to you about it. First of all their personal items, clothing, shoes, accessories, anything that's been gifted to them. And also, I also send anything they've grown out of that is still in wearable condition. The reason I do this is because it is purchased for them. It is their item. They may want it. Their parent may want it as well, as if there is a younger sibling. So just think about that. Another thing that gets sent is allowance. So in many cases, you are required to give kids weekly allowance. So for your future self, make sure you have a place where you are keeping all that money safely and everything gets returned with the child. Don't forget about comfort items, anything that's really special to them, like a stuffed animal, a blanket, or anything that they are, really attached to. Of course, medications and all medical devices. I like to pull out the prescription bags as well, just so they can see the specifics, especially, if the bottle, it doesn't have all the information. I like to keep all of that so that when they return, the parents can have all that background information. Don't forget to also send the life book. So that is a collection of photos and memories you as a foster parent should be keeping as the child is staying with you. And this is so that those moments are not lost. I also recommend sending digital files so you can get a card to put all the pictures on or email them. In this day and age, having digital items is also helpful. Anything that you have left for the baby, diapers, wipes, formula, bottles, those things that the child are using right now can be very helpful to return home. I also go through my pantry and pull out specific snacks or foods that I know the kid loves. And that can be just a comfort to them on the drive home. When they get there, having their favorite snacks, I find it to be helpful to send. I also collect information and send that so that the parent has it about the professional team. So if they are continuing, some type of therapy, I'll make sure to include the therapist's information in some type of printout. Don't assume that the worker has collected all that information and has given it to the parent. And just in a general sense, I try to pack everything in bins, luggage, or usable storage containers and not trash bags. I don't know how many times I've talked about trash bags, but we cannot put any of the kids' things in trash bags ever. Now, some things that may not get sent are items for the home, and that's like beds, strollers, car seats, booster seats. All of those things usually stay at the home. However, if a parent needs it and asks me for it, I would give it to them. There are foster closets that can help replenish these larger items for your foster home. All right, so we've talked about how the transition might happen and what gets sent, and now you are left in your home, sometimes with no kids. That first day can feel very quiet. And in the coming days and weeks, you may experience the feelings of loss and grief. And it's important to acknowledge how you are feeling, because if we try to jump right back into things and our hearts are not fully in it, it can be damaging to the next family that you're helping. Taking a few minutes to reflect and fill up your own cup can be really important. Some things that I do when a child leaves my home is I try to put together some nostalgic items. So this could be a memory book or printing out a photo book, creating photo items like a calendar, a mug with the kids' pictures on, just so I can remember them. Other things you can do that I've seen other foster parents do are create handprint crafts. So kids can put the handprint on a wall or on a mural, and you can add to it with each child. If you foster older kids, you can do some type of guest book where a child will leave their name or maybe, their favorite food or a fun fact about them. And that can be a way to remember the kids who've come into your home. And another thing I like to do are create holiday items that have the kids' name on them. Like I have ornaments that have little stockings with all the kids' names on them that have been in our home. And you can do this for all the holidays. At Easter, I have different baskets and eggs that have the names on them. This is just for me. This is as a nostalgic thing that helps me, remember the kids and cherish those memories. And then in terms of my life and, what I go through to reset my mind and heart is, first, I try to get out with my husband, Chris, go on a date night, get out of town, get a weekend away if I can. Sometimes I will seek out my friends that don't have kids because I probably haven't seen them in a while, and I'll go out and have dinner with them. It also helps in my home to reset the space. So deep cleaning of the bedrooms, going through the toy room and reorganizing it, even moving furniture. At least it helps me kind of get in a new headspace for the next child. If there's, something that wasn't really working in my home, this will be the time for me to go change it and, make it better for the next child. I also highly recommend going to support group and sharing with the group that a child has left your house and accepting the love and care that they give you. This can be a harder time in your life, and you may even need professional therapy to get through this time, especially if the kid's been with you a long time. And so receiving and accepting that help, I highly recommend. You need to make sure that you are whole again and can focus all your energy on the next child. Diving into your hobbies and interests can be really helpful. And, a lot of times we haven't spent time on ourselves because we've been very busy, working towards reunification. So this can be a good time for a break and to spend some time on your personal life. It is totally okay for you to call your licensing worker or whoever is doing the placement calls and telling them, I'd like to take a few weeks off, or I want to take a few months off. It's also okay to just pause and say, we are reflecting and deciding if foster care is still for us. All right, and after you've done everything and you're feeling whole again and energized, you can call up your worker and let them know that you are ready to say yes again. If you need a little extra support during this time, please check the description below. I'm gonna link to my website. I actually have a state-by-state list of support groups and online groups that you can join and get support.